Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and today we're back in the Culling, giving you some hot tips on how to improve your gameplay. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the best weapons you can find throughout the game, as well as some good items that you want to be carrying on yourself. So before we bore you with all the details of why they are good, if anyone just wants to know, like, Baggins, I'm looking through a room at the start of the game, and I want to know what I should be carrying on me. Let's quickly cover that. So at tier 1, as you're opening up those lockers, the weapons you want to be looking for are the Tanto Knife, and over here we have the Tonfa, which is like a nightstick sort of thing. At tier 2, when you're opening up those green crates maybe, the weapons that you want to be very excited for are the crowbar and the cleaver. The cleaver being number 1, and then the crowbar coming in second. At tier 3, so from your airdrops pretty much, or maybe you're opening up one of those hollow spawners, the weapons, again, that you want to be excited about there, the baseball bat. And we have the, wait, where is it? The baseball bat and the Bowie Knife. There we go, we found it in the end. And finally at tier 4, the King of Kings, we've got the Katana, which I'm sure probably a few of you already know is pretty sweet. And in a somewhat distant second, we have the Fireman's Axe, which is still pretty powerful, but not quite as good as the Katana. Now, the reasons behind these, you ask. Well, a lot of this has to come down to the wound that each weapon applies. So with the knife, the Tanto Knife for example, we have a bleed, which you can see down in the bottom right there. It says bleed 1.0 damage per second. Bleeds last for, I believe, 10 seconds. So over the course of 10 seconds, this will apply 1 damage every second, which is equates to 10 damage. But the reason why the Tanto Knife is so much better than its brother, the machete, is if we take a look at the bleed, not only is the machete slow, but the bleed is worse as well. So we're losing 1 damage off the potential max, but that more than makes up for it in the double damage we get from the bleed, or nearly double. So that's why Tanto Knives are pretty sweet. They share the same wound as a tier 2 weapon, so if we take a look at the Kukri here, you'll see it's got a bleed, again, 1 damage per second, and a bleed 1 damage per second, so it has a tier 2 wound on it. This is the same with the Tonfa as well. So if we take a look at the Tonfa, it's got a 10% cripple. The wounds real quick for each weapon and what they do. So knives, we have a bleed, which is just damage per second. With bludgeons, we have a cripple, which slows your opponent by the percentage you see. With axes, we have an expose. Let's pick up this one here. So that's a 10% expose. So it means if you hit someone, we'll quickly show you on this cheeky mandroid here. We hit him, he has the expose, you can see that little wound on him, and it means the next hit that we do, provided the wound doesn't go off, will do an extra 10% damage. So a good combo to do here is to go for, oh my god. All right, and then we can go for a full charge swing for another 10% extra damage. So yeah, that's what exposes do. And then finally we have the spears, which are probably the worst weapon in the game. It's hard to say, but they are situational in that they give you a shred, which only deals bonus damage to armor. So if your opponent doesn't have armor like this mandroid here, then you know, we're not going to be doing too much. The wound doesn't really apply to him at all. So we've covered why the tier 1 weapons are good, and that's because they have the tier 2 wound on them. And with the tier 2 weapons, that's pretty much the same factor. So if we take a look at the cleaver, we've got a 20% expose on it, and we take a look at its brother in the same tier, it's got a 10% expose. So like with the knives, the Tanto and the machete, you get 1 extra higher damage, but that doesn't really compare to the double strength of the wound. It's literally just a flat double this time, so that is why the cleaver is the king. It's got a tier 3 wound on it, so 20% extra damage with that next swing. That's pretty nice. And then we have the crowbar coming up behind the cleaver in tier 2, and that's just because this thing hurts like heck, and it's a fast weapon as well. So this doesn't have the tier 3 wound on it, but you can do a lot of damage with the crowbar for sure. And it's just, it's a pretty good weapon. So there's not really too many other contenders at tier 2. It's a pretty balanced weapon slot, I guess. There's nothing quite as crazy and as outlandish as the Tanto Knife is in tier 1. Moving into tier 3, we have what some people would argue is a bit of a toss-up between the Bowie Knife and the baseball bat. I think the baseball bat's just, you know, probably one of the best weapons in the game. There are some other veterans who will disagree and tell you that there's other better weapons. But most people would agree that if you were going to, you know, make a top 2 or a top 3 list, definitely in there would be the Bowie Knife and the baseball bat. And this is because this weapon swings fast, it has a lot of damage, it's got a 20% cripple, which can make a difference in a lot of fights. But above the baseball bat in terms of power is the Bowie Knife. And again, this is because of the wound stat on it. Compared to its brother in the same slot, the Tactical Machete has 1 point higher max damage on it, but you're getting 0.4 more DPS with the bleed. So over 10 seconds, that's 4 more damage as opposed to what you would get with the Tactical Machete. So it's essentially a net gain of 3 damage with the Bowie Knife if you can make that bleed last as long as you can. And granted, you're probably going to be getting more than 1 hit in every 10 seconds, but it's still, most people would agree, the Bowie Knife better than the Tactical Machete. So if you have to make a toss-up between these two, go and sell the Machete and keep that Bowie Knife on you, because it has the same bleed as the Katana, which is the best weapon, arguably, in the game. So finally, again, the reason why the Katana is the best weapon out of all the tier 4s is because knives are just good across pretty much every tier. Bleed is always a relevant stat. Like, there's never a situation where you're like, oh, I could have done with some other wound there. Like, bleed is always just raw damage, and raw damage is always good because that kills your opponent. It's not situational like with the spear, where the wound doesn't matter if they don't have body armor or something. Bleeding is generally always good. You won't be able to kill your opponent with a bleed. You can only put them down to 1 HP, but you can bleed them all the way down to that. So you could slash someone, and then they would slowly tick down to 1 HP and stay there. At which point you could just, like, I don't know, throw a man tracker at them and kill them. It's going to be pretty easy from there on out. And then, like I say, coming in at the second slot is the Fireman's Axe, and that's just because you can really chunk someone with this. It is going to be a close contender with the Trident. If your opponent has body armor, then the Trident is probably the best second weapon, just because this has such a high damage number on it. But like I say, if the opponent doesn't have body armor, then the Fireman's Axe is certainly better, because that 30% extra damage on the next swing is going to equate to a lot of extra damage. So that's why I hold the Fireman's Axe and the Katana as the top 2 weapons at tier 4. Now, running through the buildings and you're coming across stuff within the medicine box and in cabinets and stuff, what items do you want to be looking to keep from there? Well, probably the best item that you can keep from a medicine cabinet is these two here. So we've got explosive runs and a med kit, both really insane, can often change a fight for you if you can get them off. Explosive runs probably the best thing, because there's nothing really more powerful in this game than movement speed. It either means you can catch someone up or you can run away from them. Which again is the difference between life or death for either you or your opponent. So yeah, that 25% extra movement speed can certainly be a game changer. Then we have the medkit being an item that you definitely want to hold on your person if you can make room for it. Being able to full heal from like a very low number. So say you just finished a fight and you only got 10 HP left and you can hear someone else moving in on you. Popping that medkit before they get to you can again be the difference between life or death. So those 2 items very impactful on the game. After that, stuff that I would recommend keeping on your person would be Muscleman Milk and Iron Skin. Those again can make a difference in a fight. Muscleman Milk gives you 15% extra damage and the Iron Skin is 15% reduced damage. So combined, that's like a net gain of 30 between you and opponent. So that can make quite a difference in a fight. Silent but Deadly, I would generally recommend you sell. It's very rare that this makes a difference in a fight. Sure, sometimes it might enable you to sneak up and get that backstab, but that's only really relevant if you have Brutus on, which I don't think too many people do. So most of the time I would trade this in for Funk, which I could then use on making body armor or traps or just anything else more useful really. The Hemo Blast, I do see a lot of players making this mistake. So I come across and I kill someone and a Hemo Blast falls out of their person and I'm like, why did they not pop that? Like, you should just use that. And the only reason I can think why is that they think it's similar to the Muscleman Milk and all the other buffs. So let's go find some Muscleman Milk or explosive runs. So you can see with the explosive runs it says for 30 seconds, but this one doesn't have any seconds on it, and that's because it permanently applies it. So if we wait for what is quite a long animation, there you go, you can see I go up to 120, and that is now my max health. So if I take a bit of damage, I can heal up to 120, and that's for the rest of the game. So if you come across a Hemo Blast, don't try and save it for mid-fight. It doesn't work that way. It's just best to pop it then and there, provided someone isn't like about to come through the door and start stabbing you, because you don't want to get caught in that animation. Like I say, it's pretty long. I don't really regard orange juice as like a common item. Like you pretty much only find it in fridges or in the holo spawners at the end of the match. And it's very rare to find it in a fridge. I think it's like maybe 1 in every 30 games I find this, maybe more. Of course, you do want to keep orange juice though. It's basically just a combination of the 3 we found over here. So it gives you explosive runs, muscle man milk, and iron skin, all for their durations. But you only have to carry 1 item instead of 3. So yeah, definitely do not sell orange juice. Save that for an important fight because it can certainly make a difference. Outside of that, other miscellaneous items that you can find inside of cabinets and stuff is the bandage. The bandage I wouldn't really recommend keeping on you. It's kind of, again, a bit situational. If you've got the room for it, sure, but you're probably better off replacing it with like something like caltrops or whatever. What I would generally recommend you do with a bandage, if you have enough funk, is go and find yourself a stick. So obviously in this instance we can find a stick here, but if you're on a map somewhere, then you can find it on the floor or by chopping up a tree. That will make you a satchel. And then if we go and punch some rocks, which I think these walls are rocks, right? And then we combine it with a rock to make crafted body armor. And then once again to reinforce that body armor. I think that's probably one of the best uses for bandages. Other than if you're already low in health, then just go and use that thing. Otherwise, if you've already got body armor or you don't have enough funk to make the body armor and you're pretty full on health, I would just recommend selling the bandage as well. Other stuff that we can find, the pepper spray. Sell this shit. It's pretty useless, especially on Xbox. It doesn't actually affect the auto aim at all. So if you pepper spray someone, the auto aim will still home in on them. So it doesn't save you at all, really. It's generally just worth the funk. A stun gun, if you've got the room for it, I would recommend keeping it. It's not as good as explosive runs, muscle man milk, or iron skin. But if you weren't able to find any of those, and you did find a stun gun, and you're not in immediate need of funk, then it's generally worth keeping it on you, as it pretty much guarantees you a fully charged weapon swing. So here we go. He wasn't able to react to that in time, and I got a full charge swing off of him. So you can effectively think as the stun gun as a chance to fully attack someone without them being able to retaliate. After that, of course, it is empty and it's not really worth anything, so we will sell it after that. There you have it, guys. That's pretty much my rundown of weapons and items that you want to look out for in lockers at the start of the game. Alarm guns, I would say you sell as well. They don't really do much other than just troll people, unless that's what you're looking for, in which case keep that alarm gun, but it doesn't actually make a difference in a fight, or it's very rare that it does. Hopefully this has covered everything you wanted to hear about weapons and items in the Culling. I've tried to be pretty extensive, but if I did miss out on anything, let me know in the comments down below. Next video we're likely going to do is probably going to be a guide on combat specifically. It's a bit of a tricky one to do because it's not really just a case of like do this and you win. Obviously there's a lot of strategy involved in the Culling. But yeah, if there is something other than that you guys want to see in an upcoming video, let me know. And until next time, guys, I've been Baggins, and I'll see you all later.
And it turns out Culling is your business, and business is good. Kaboom! Explosive kill. What a mess! Thanks for playing Food Express. Holy smoke bomb on a stick. Hey, contestant, what's next pick? That's our job, keeping it clean. You're a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean?